Hello and welcome to the Splendor of Truth. Today we are going to talk of chapter 7, or to cover chapter 7, which is entitled The Ethics of Effort, Reconciling Conditional Causality and the Efficacy of Prayer. Before I continue, I just want to say that this to me has been one of the most challenging chapters of this book, The Splendor of Truth. And it's perhaps the most controversial, even more controversial than the witchcraft and the destiny and any other thing you may have found controversial. And I acknowledge that. However, as a philosopher, I don't run away from questions. I embrace questions. As I said, doubt is the beginning of wisdom. And so here I expose my doubts. And this is one of those chapters that I would like to invite the public, other philosophers, to chime in and to give their own perspective. But based on my philosophy of critical synthetic realism, I found myself wondering about the efficacy of prayer. If efforts, if effort shapes outcomes, then what role does prayer play? Can prayer make a team win? Can it determine the outcome of a war? Can it guarantee success? Or does it do something entirely different? Today, I want to confront this directly. Does prayer actually change reality, or does it change us? The problem, effort versus prayer. In the previous chapter, I argued that fatalism is false. Your life is not predetermined. Your actions matter. But this raises a deeper tension. If outcomes depend on us, if outcomes depend on effort, on decisions, and on conditions, then what is the role of prayer? Many people assume prayer changes outcomes, but but is that consistent with how reality works? The real world test competition and conflict. Let us test this idea in real life. Can prayer make one team, let's say a football or soccer team, win over the other? If that were true, then victory would depend not on skill, preparation, and execution, but on who prays more. But that is not what we observe. What happens when both teams pray? This exposes the problem clearly. If both teams pray for victory, either God must choose one arbitrarily, or prayer has no causal effect on the outcome. In a law governed reality, outcomes are determined by conditions, not competing prayers. Can prayer make one country defeat another in war? History answers this clearly. Both sides in war often pray, yet outcomes depend on strategy, technology, intelligence, and logistics. If prayer determined victory, the most prayerful nations would always win, but they do not. Why are the most prayerful people not always the most successful? Because success operates within causal systems. It depends on competence, discipline, and decision making. A person may pray deeply but act poorly and therefore fail. Another may not pray at all but act effectively and succeed. This is not a contradiction. It is a reflection on how reality works, the dilemma of the answered prayer. This brings us back to the philosophical dilemma. When someone prays, two possibilities arise. One, natural outcomes. If the outcome occurs through normal processes, prayer becomes epistemically redundant. The second scenario, miraculous outcome. If the outcome is extraordinary, it cannot be verified or tested. So we face a paradox. Either prayer is unnecessary or it is epistemically unwarranted. The danger of misplaced prayer. When misunderstood, prayer can be dangerous. It leads to abdication of responsibility, misallocation of effort, and false expectations. This produces a passive mindset. God will fix it. Instead of, what must I do? And this is where we must introduce a deeper truth. Work is to pray. True devotion is not passive, it is expressed through action. In critical synthetic realism, I propose conditional causality. Outcomes depend on conditions, actions, and interactions. Reality is structured. Nothing bypasses causality. So, where does prayer fit? Prayer does not change the structure of reality, it transforms the agent within that structure. So, prayer transforms us, it doesn't change reality. The true function of prayer. Prayer has real value, but not as magical intervention. It clarifies the mind, strengthens discipline, aligns intention, and regulates emotion. So prayers work not by directly changing the world, but by preparing the individual to act effectively within it. That is why to work is to pray. Miracles and the limits of human knowledge. Now, let me address an important question. Are miracles possible? Classical theology, including Thomas Aquinas, affirms that they are. He describes them as contra naturam or praeter naturam. That is, beyond or outside the ordinary course of nature. So let me be clear. Critical synthetic realism does not deny the possibility of miracles. However, it introduces an important caution. We do not fully understand the total structure of reality. What appears to us as outside nature may simply be beyond our current understanding of nature. Therefore, we cannot build our lives on exceptions we cannot verify. If miracles are possible, they are not the basis for rational decision making. The ethics of effort. This leads to the central conclusion. Effort is an ethical obligation. Prayer without effort is ineffective. Effort without clarity is misdirected. But when properly understood, prayer strengthens effort. It does not replace it. This brings us to the end of chapter 7 of the Splendor of Truth. And with this, we also come to the end of part 2, Refutations, Conquering the Forces of Irrationality. In this section, we have confronted witchcraft, epistemic fracture, fatalism, and misconceptions about prayer. Now we move forward. In the next video, we begin part 3, Agency, Building the Rational Society and the Good Life, starting with chapter 8, Political Philosophy, a Defense of Democracy. If you found this presentation insightful, please click like below and subscribe to this channel. And if you want if you want the full philosophical framework, again as usual, I invite you to buy and read the book, The Splendor of Truth, available on Amazon or through the book's publisher, Wife and Stock. Thank you for listening, and I will see you in the next chapter where we begin to build the foundations for a rational society and the good life.